Hello everyone, welcome to our video lecture on software engineering. So, in our last video lecture we have started the software process, the second chapter, that is software process, and we have learned what are the activities of a software process and what are the product description. So, there are four fundamental activities. When we are going to carry out all those fundamental activities, then we can call it as a software process. Then in this class we are going for software process model. So, before going to software process model, so let us know what is a software process, how many types of software processes are there. So, we have two types of software process. The first one is our plan driven process and second one is agile process. So, what does that mean, plan driven and agile process? So, in case of plan driven process, all those four fundamental activities that we are going to carry out to develop a software, that all those activities should be pre-planned. They should be well defined. Before starting a project or before developing a software, we have to plan all those activities, like when to start the project, when the project should end, how many people should be there, what is the time constraint, what is the budget constraint, all those activities should be pre-planned. So, in case of plan driven process, we have to plan all those activities in advance. Before developing, we should plan them. But in case of agile process, that is incremental development. That means we will plan something, then we will develop that. If we want to change our plan, then we can change our plan, and according to our plan we can develop other things. Okay. So, we have two options, either we will go for the plan driven or we will go for the agile. But in real life, many software companies adopt both the plan driven and agile process. So, based on the software process, we have three process models. What is actually the software process model? The software process model means it is the graphical representation of a software process. How we are going to carry out all those four activities, that we can represent them in a graphical manner, or the software process model can be called as a SDLC, that is software development life cycle. How we are going to develop a software, that abstract representation is called as a software process model. So, we have three software process model. The first one is waterfall model. So, waterfall model is a strict model, and this is the first model that has been created to develop a software, and this is completely plan driven model. Here we are going to carry out all those steps in a distinct phase. We have to complete the first phase, then we will go for the second phase. Without completing the first phase, we cannot go for the second phase. That is why that name is waterfall model. Second one is incremental development. Incremental development can both be a plan driven or it can be a agile process. That means here we have not to strictly follow the plan driven model. We can plan something. So, take an example, suppose in WhatsApp is a software that we are using. In case of WhatsApp, when WhatsApp has been developed for the first time, then there are some limited features, like was a voice call, there was chats, there was group chats, but there was no video call. After some time or after 1 or 2 years, there was the feature added, that is video call. So, that is the incremental development. When we are developing the software, we are adding some features, but after some years, if the user requirements change, then we can also change that software and we can also add extra features, and for that extra features we should plan all those things. So, that is the incremental development. Next, we have integration and configuration. Here we do not have to develop a new software. In our first class, I told you that the software engineering is a collection of past experience. That means we have to look into our past, how we delivered a good software to the customer, what are the technologies, what are the techniques we have used in case of our past projects. Then we have to adapt those technologies or those components to develop a new software. So, that is integration and configuration. We first look into in our past that if there is some software present in our past, then we can take those components, we can integrate that, or we can configure them and we can develop a new software. So, that is the integration and configuration. So, next come to the waterfall model. So, we have 4 process activities, those are specification, our design and implementation, and the third one is our validation, and fourth one is evolution. So, in case of our first phase, we have to specify what are the functions and what are the services that is supposed to our software is going to provide to our customer. In the second phase, that is design and implementation, there we have to design the system architecture, then we have to implement those system architecture in terms of programming. Next, in third phase, that is validation, there we have to test our software, that is actually up to the mark that the customer can use it or not. Then the fourth phase, that is our evolution. Once our software is ready, then the software enters to the evolution phase, that is the maintenance phase. So, I have already told you that we cannot say a software as a good software or it is a bad software process, because depending on the software nature, we can adapt any software process model. But just remember that all the software process model follows the 4 fundamental activities, but the way of carrying out all those fundamental activities may be changed. Like that, waterfall model, we have 4 process activities, but here we have 5 phases. The first one is requirement definition, that means the specification activities. Second is system and software design. So, the second activity is design and implementation. In case of waterfall model, we divide that second activities, but we are carrying out these second activities, that is design and implementation, but we just divide the second activities into 2 parts. The first one is system and software design, the second is implementation and unit testing. Here the third phase is carrying out the second activities, that is implementation, and some activities from the third, that is validation, is our unit testing. Okay. So, we have 5 phases, 5 distinct phases. Why this name is waterfall model? Like in case of waterfall, how the water flows? The water flows from step by step, from up to down. If there are 5 steps, then the water flows from 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. The water cannot flow from 1 to 3 by skipping second step, because that is the nature of water, that will flow from up to down. Like that, here we have to follow that nature. We have to complete the first phase, then we will go for the second phase, then we will go for the third, then we will go for the fourth, then we will go for the 5. If I am in third phase, that indicates that I have completed the first and second phase. Without completing the first and second phase, I cannot go for the third phase. So, that is why it is a plan driven model. It follows a strict nature. Okay. So, this is the plan driven model. The first phase is what? Requirement definition. So, what we do in requirement definition? We have to mention 3 things. The first one is service, the second is constraints, and the third one is goals. So, we have to specify what are the services that is going to provide by my software to the customer, what are the constraints, by looking at the constraint I have to develop the software, and what is the goal. So, in case of service, that means here we have to define the functions, we have to define what actually my system is going to do, what functions or what services that my system is supposed to provide the end user or to the customer, that I have to define in case of requirement specification. Apart that, we have to specify the constraint. So, constraint means what? The constraint may be 2 types. First one is a technical constraint and second one is non-technical constraints. So, what are those? So, what is the technical constraint? That means speed, your what are the resources available, like your processing time, your data transfer time, your execution time. So, all those are the technical constraints. Like that, what are the non-technical constraint? Non-technical constraint means suppose budget constraint. Budget constraint means what? Within what budget I have to develop this software. Suppose my customer is going to give me 1 lakh for this project, but when I analyze all those requirements and all those technical constraints, I find that we have to spend 1.5 lakh on this project, then I have to abort there, because the budget constraint is not meeting in this requirement specification. So, I have to abort. Like that, some time constraint are there. Time constraint means within what time period I have to develop this project, or within what deadline I have to develop this software or this software solution, that we have to mention in case of software requirement definition. And next, third one is goal. So, goal means what? We have to define how much of profit we get by developing this project from my customer. If I am developing a software from the management perspective, I have to know what will be the profit, what will be the brand name that I will get after developing this software. So, all these things should be defined in case of requirement definition. So, the requirement definition, after completion of the requirement definition, I will get a requirement specification document. So, this is the output of the requirement definition. That means, here we have to describe what are the requirements from the user perspective, from the manager perspective, from the company's perspective also. So, after completion of the requirement definition, I will get a requirement specification document. So, this is the input for the design phase. So, next come to the second phase, that is system and software design. So, in case of system or software design, we have to design two things. The first one is our system design, second one is our software design. So, what is that system design? That is our hardware. To run a software, there must be a hardware. A software cannot run without a hardware. So, that means we have to develop a software, along with we need some hardware to run that software, that we should design in the system and software design. So, in case of software design, what we want to design, I have already told you, that is software is not a single component. Software is consist of some subsystems, and subsystems are consist of some components. So, here we have to design those components, what are their relationship, according that we can design a system architecture. So, here the output is system architecture, that will go to the implementation and unit testing. So, implementation means what? We are implementing the system, that means we are writing the program for the design. What we get from the design phase is system architecture. So, by looking at the system architecture, that system architecture may consist of some subsystems, and those subsystems consist of some component. Then we have to code those components, that is implementation. That means, suppose there are n number of components, that means we have to write n number of program for those n number of components. So, suppose we have write n number of program like P1, P2 up to Pn. Next, come to unit testing. What is that unit testing? Here each program is treated as a unit. P1 is a unit, P2 is a unit, up to Pn is also a single unit. Suppose there are n number of people, those have written those n number of programs. Suppose the P1 is written by the employee 1, P2 is written by employee 2, and Pn is written by employee n. Then unit testing means we have to test each and individual unit. That means we have to test each and individual program. Who will test that? The E1, the employee 1 will test P1, employee 2 will test the program 2, and employee n will test the program n. Why? I am writing a program, and that program consists of some set of instructions, and there should be some logic, and that logic is developed by me. So, while checking that program or while testing that program, if any error arises, if that is a syntax error, then you can fix those errors. But if that is a logical error, then it is very difficult to fix that a logical error for you, because that logic is depend on me. I have developed that logic. So, it will very easy for me to fix those errors if any logical error comes. So, that is why we are giving the programs to the developers. Those employee 1 has written the program P1, then employee 1 will check that P1. So, that will be very easy. So, that is called unit testing. After unit testing, we have n number of programs, those are perfectly working. Next, we will go for the integration and system testing. So, integration means what? Integration means we are combining each unit. Suppose take an example, you people are familiar with Google Classroom. So, there is an option of classwork. So, there is an option for classwork, and in case of classwork there are different options. Suppose I am taking first 3 option, that is our assignment, next is our question, and third one is our material. So, Google Classroom is an app, and inside that app there are many functionalities, but we are considering only classwork functionalities. And inside the classwork we have three components: assignment, question and material. So, these are the components, this is the subsystem. By combining all those components, we can call it as a subsystem. And like classwork, there are also other subsystems, and combining all those subsystems, we are developing an app, that is Google Classroom. So, in case of implementation and unit testing, we have to implement all those components. These are each units. We have to code for assignment, we have to code for question, and we have to code for the material. So, this is the implementation. So, what is unit testing? We have to check that code that have written for assignment, that we have to test that is working properly or not. Like that, we have to test the code that is written for question, and also we have to check whether the code that is for material is working properly or not. So, here we are checking all those codes individually, we are unit testing all those things. So, that is the implementation and unit testing. Next come to integration. Integration means we have to combine all these codes, then we have to form a subsystem, that is classwork, then we have to check whether the classwork is working or not. Because when it is not necessary that when we are developing n number of programs, then if that individual n programs are correct and working properly, that does not mean that when we are combining all those n number of programs, they will work properly. They may work properly, they may not work properly. That is why we have to integrate all those units, we have to form their relationship, then after we should check whether in a group they were working or not. That is the integration and system testing. Like that, assignment, question and material will combine together and classwork will check. Like that, other components will combine and other subsystem will check. Then all the subsystem will combine together and the system will check. If the system is working properly, that means we have a good software solution. Then we can deliver that good software solution to the customer or to the end user. When the software is ready and we have delivered the software to our customer, then the software enters to the maintenance phase, that is the operation and maintenance phase. Here we have delivered the software solution to the customer or to the end user. Then according to the user changes or if any changes needs, then we can accommodate all those users changing needs. So, there should some maintenance engineers always available to accommodate those users changing needs. So, this is the operation and maintenance phase, this is the last phase. So, this is the basic waterfall model. We have to strictly follow all the phases. So, next come to what is the disadvantages and advantages of a waterfall model. So, the disadvantages is, as we are strictly following all the phases, we are completing the first phase, then we will go for the second phase. We will complete the second phase, then we will go for the third phase. Suppose there may be an error after delivering the product to the customer, then the error will arise where? In the fifth phase. Then we have to go back to the requirement definition. Then here we have to change our specification. According to that change specification, we have to redesign our system and software. Then according to the redesign, we have to implement, we have to unit test, and we have to integrate, and we have to system test also. So, this will cost more. If there is a possibility to suppose there is any error in integration, and there is a possibilities that we can check that error in that integration phase only, then it will cost less. But here we have to go back to the specification phase or requirement definition phase, then we will go for the again the design phase, again the implementation and unit test phase, then we will integration and system testing. That is why it costs more. So, this is the disadvantage. But what is the advantage? Why all those companies are using waterfall model? Because it is a plan driven model, and in case of larger projects when development time is of 1 year or 2 years, then we have to carefully develop that software. That means we have to pre-plan all the activities, and according to the plan we have to monitor the development. According to our plan, that development is going on or not, that we should monitor. So, in case of larger projects, we will go for the waterfall model. So, this much for this class. Then in our next class, we will go for the incremental development and the integration and configuration software engineering. Thank you.